Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Old Hunt, where we are still celebrating 10 years of Bloodborne. We are playing through version 1.00 of the Japanese release. And last time we were running around, we came into Hemwick and we started exploring. We managed to open both a shortcut over by the entryway over there, and also this much more important shortcut, this giant gate that will allow us to connect to basically the second half of Hemwick. Also, I tried to point out some things about the way that the developers were trying to sort of tell the story using different aspects of the game. And, to... I'll let you be the judge of the success. I think it was mixed at best, personally, but, not my strong suit, so you gotta take what you can get. One thing that I did remember that I failed to point out is you can see these pipes in the walls everywhere. I thought there was one more over here. Well, maybe not everywhere, but they're very frequent, right? They are not difficult to find. And people have speculated that this sort of smoking, this constant smoking from all of these pipes, which you can see in the backgrounds over here and really all throughout Hemwick, people have speculated that this is perhaps coming from fires where they're burning corpses, the bone marrow, to create the bone marrow ash. Possibly, there's definitely some element of video gaminess happening here, because there's just way too much of this smoke and it's always going, right? So the fires are always burning, maybe, I don't know. Someone who is, much more acquainted with that particular very intricate visual detailed analysis is probably a better person to present that sort of argument, but I did want to bring it up because I have heard other people make it, and I think it's interesting, and it ties in with the sort of storytelling that I was looking to highlight in my last episode, where we were thinking about the ways in which Bloodborne presents information in its areas. And I was talking about how it presents information in its backgrounds, in its level layout, in the item drops, the item placement on corpses, the enemy types and varieties, all those sorts of things. Thinking about all these different ways that Bloodborne tells the story, in addition to, of course, the most obvious one, which is item descriptions. You pick up an item somewhat in advance, usually, of where exactly you're going, like the bloodshot eyeball or the bone marrow ash. Just a couple of items so far. I didn't realize when I came here just how few items are directly tied to Hemwick. But, I mean, that's just how it is, I suppose. Again, this is not the biggest area in Bloodborne. As we come through this gate here, we will be accessing its second half. And, of course, I'm still somewhat low on resources. Oh, man. I tried to shoot him. Uh-oh. I tried to roll forward. Normally... Ooh, I'm lucky I dodged that grab. Oof. Okay, but that leaves him open. Good. Excellent. I was able to heal back all that health, and that should be... Oh, it's a triangle gem drop. Well, I was actually hoping that would be blood vials, but that's okay. I am continuing on from my last attempt at coming through Hemwick, which has the advantage. Normally there's an enemy up there that throws Molotov cocktails, and when you come at her from the sort of expected direction, which is over from on top of the roofs, that you can see those houses, those decrepit buildings rising up over in that direction. You come along, and she throws the Molotov cocktails against a dead tree. But if you want to do any fighting or searching for items over in this direction, and she's still alive, she can be quite a nuisance with those Molotov cocktails. But fortunately, that's not going to be a problem for us, so we can come to this particular area without issue. I think I'm going to leave that other big guy alone for now. We're going to come over in this direction. There we go. You can trigger certain enemies to come at you by standing in the right places. And this is one of the right places to stand to attract a number of these dogs. Uh-oh. More of them than I thought were going to arrive decided to show up. Uh-oh, I ran out of stamina. But that's okay. We solved the problem. Yeah, I did not think that many of them would come rushing over. I knew I would attract one or two of them. I did not think I would get them all. However, the nature of how I happened to attract them in that particular instance meant that they came slowly enough, even though they all eventually showed up, that they weren't all hounding me at the same time. Oh, no pun intended with the hounding. Anyway... Here we have this weird... I wonder if anyone's done, a detailed breakdown of this pillar and the images on it. Someone has to have done it. It's not me. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Visual analysis is not my forte. I'm not even willing to attempt it the way that I was trying to, because, you know, I'm not a game designer, item placement person, any of that sort of thing either. However, I am... Oh, this dog is, like, cued to wait with this Molotov cocktail thrower. And, oh, boy. Okay, nope, I didn't want to lock out of the dog. All right, well, rolling will interrupt the Molotov cocktail thrower. All right. It worked. It was messy. Very messy, but it worked. Anyway, I was saying, I'm not like a level design pro, not like any sort of, you know, game developer, hands-on game developer, placing items in the background. Like, I can't really fully comment on that sort of thing, but I feel like I can talk about what I'm noticing as I play through an area, right? I feel like I can just pick out things that I'm realizing that I'm noticing. And, you know, maybe it's not going to be the most novel and interesting thing in the world, but I think sometimes just by paying attention to details like that, you can increase your appreciation for them. And there we are. Always very precarious, that particular item placement down there. We have another rune over by this large body of water. And perhaps the rune name will tell us exactly what this particular large body of water should be understood as, because this is called the Lake Rune. All right, and let me very quickly get a look at this description. So we have lake, of course. That's just the kanji for lake in Japanese quotation marks. That's the title of this rune. And our first line here is telling us this is not one of Carol's runes. This is just a Carol rune, or a Carol letter, which serves as a visual representation of inhuman sounds, or serves to express inhuman sounds. Let's see. Okay, it was given the meaning of lake from the fact that it resembles the reflection into the surface of water. It's a little bit tricky. What makes it challenging is that the verb utsuru, probably being used in its sense of to reflect, is being modified by the auxiliary verb komu, which can either indicate that the activity described by the verb takes place thoroughly, intensely, and/or for a long time, or that the action moves towards the interior. Gameplay Matt settled on the idea of the reflection happening into the water's surface, but it's also possible that this sentence could be rendered given the meaning of lake from its resemblance to the thoroughly reflective surface of water. Right, back to you, Gameplay Matt. Anyway, let's see. Increases the damage cut of increases the physical damage cut of the one who carves. So the one who carves being the person who memorizes the rune. And this is interesting to me because I think it just says the English. I forget the exact wording, but the official translation does not use the idea of damage cutto, right? The damage cut, right? So literally, if you look at the Japanese, it's talking about raising the amount of damage that gets cut to when you get attacked by something, right? So it's talking about raising the damage negation. Boosting your defense is what's happening, but it's this weird increase of a negative value, right? So it's sort of not the clearest wording there. So I think the official translators probably have done something clever to make that sound more natural in English, as opposed to the very literal version that I just gave. And as for the final section there, okay, large amounts of water are a severance that protect sleep. Therefore, they are... I just have the word augur in my head, so I'll use it. An augur of holy mystery, right? The divine mystery, the unknown, right? It's the arcane, right? That whole thing, right? So, and then augur, it's just like... what's a good way to talk about it? It's like a foretaste, right? So quite literally, we have the kanji for before, and then we have the kanji for touch, right? It is a maebude. And so it's sort of like you see a large body of water, And that is an advanced indication that something arcane is probably involved, because large volumes of water are a severance protecting sleep. And this is where I think for the first time in the official translation, they use the translation of Eldritch Truth for the term that I was calling like divine mystery or arcane. And this is somewhat a divisive topic, because some people really feel like Shimpi, the holy mystery, the arcane, should be translated the same way basically every time, because it ought to be treated as like a force that's just out there in the world. I'm not personally super inclined to that reading. I think you can get that reading, but that's not the way that I come at this game. And I think that the wording of Eldritch Truth is one of the first very important sort of early indications to players of the sort of genre that Bloodborne is in conversation with, right? And I've also heard people, because this game is commonly understood as an Eldritch horror game, and I've heard some people sort of push back against that because of the sort of hopeful nature that you can take from things at the end, maybe. Again, this is Bloodborne. A lot of this comes down to interpretation. And I think there's something to that. But I think the important thing from a translation perspective is you need to identify that Bloodborne is engaging with themes of Eldritch horror. Like, there's no way around it. Bloodborne is definitely engaging with the ideas presented in cosmic horror fiction. There are these great ones. They are like higher level beings, and they're secretly at work throughout the world, and they have a major impact on the plot. And so whether or not you personally find Bloodborne to like fully fit in that genre, because other people do, they think it fully applies to the genre as well as it fully applies to the gothic genre. I had a very early comment, fairly interesting perspective of someone who was saying they think that Bloodborne is fully gothic horror and fully Lovecraftian horror, sort of all the way through. And I thought that was an interesting perspective. I can definitely see how it works. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as it becomes more and more obvious, but this is one of the first indications, and I think it's appropriate, right? Because it's talking about how large bodies of water are indications of Eldritch Truth, right? They're indications of an unknown divine mystery, because they're so effective at cutting off that sort of thing, right? So you know that something arcane could be happening if you come across a large body of water, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell. It's interesting sort of logic, sort of almost a mad logic, right? Like, this thing hides arcane mysteries, therefore there must be one going on underneath there, right? Or somewhere in the vicinity, or on some level, right? It's interesting logic. Again, in Bloodborne, of course, wisdom oft resembles madness. So there's a lot of things that are sort of tied up in there. But I personally think it's a good idea for the translators to sort of start introducing these cosmic horror themes. And again, kind of fitting that it first appears on a rune that talks about how large bodies of water, like lakes, are indications of arcane goings-on, because they're effective at sort of cutting them off. Anyway, I've talked around in circles on that. The final line there, okay, so, O ye who seek, right, is somewhat ornate in its nature. Because motomeru is like seek, and then it's modifying mono, and then it's yo. And so subject yo is automatically doing a sort of like elevated address in Japanese. So, O ye who seek, aim for that which is beyond, right? So it's an encouragement to penetrate the veil of water, which is such an effective severance, to find the arcane that is surely there, that the lake itself, that the like large body of water itself is serving as a severance for. And this is going to end up being a little bit of an indirect hint for something that we do much later on. So just sort of keep that in mind. We're going to have to come back to these themes, these ideas, as we continue to play the game. But this is one of our first strong indications of all that stuff that's going to come at the same time. And it's fully in line with Bloodborne's practice of putting something in front of you and sort of teasing you with a little bit of information and not giving you the full context, right? This description hits a lot harder in hindsight than it does when you're first playing the game. But I think that's really cool. And I've talked about it. I'll probably point this out insufferably every single time I come across it, just because I think it's so neat. All right. Anyway, that is enough talk of weirdness and translations and things for now. Let's get back to our explorations of Hemwick. I think that cold blood there was the last item I needed. So now we go up this hill, and we're almost done with Hemwick. I was talking before about how this is not the biggest area, and it really isn't. I was a little early on that dodge, and then therefore I was early to run in afterwards. I break your guard. All right, well. Okay. I don't break your guard, but you die anyway. I'm glad they dropped so many blood vials. Okay. So let's keep pushing on up this particular hill. Where are they? At some point, we're going to run into another enemy ambush. There they are. Okay, they're way up there. And I don't know if you can hear it, or you can sort of see. There's another big guy over there with a giant axe. So I'm just going to hang out down this way. We don't necessarily want to fight all of these enemies at the same time. So maybe I can use some of these pebbles to get these ladies coming a little bit faster. Oh, I didn't need to. All right, they just saw me. Excellent. Looks like the big guy saw me too. But if I draw these enemies far enough back and don't get too locked up on those gravestones. Uh-oh. I was going to have this big triumphant moment where I flipped open my weapon. Uh-oh. I forgot I was locked on. Is the lock-on going to kill me? No, the lock-on's going to kill you. Ha-ha! All right, and I'm remembering I can roll into them. Whew. That could have been a lot worse. Could have been a lot worse. As we've discovered in just the last episode, I am not any better at this game than I've ever been. Sort of funny. I've been getting some comments from someone who's watching some of my translation-born videos recently who's just like, you need to dodge. Why do you never dodge? I trust me, man. The dodge button won't betray you. No one's gonna call you a coward if you just tank every hit. I thought that was pretty funny. I really don't think gameplay is the point of translation-born in particular. So, you know, I hope that I'm not contributing too much with that series to the annoyance of people who can't ignore like weird things happening on screen. That, like, I know it can be obnoxious to watch someone play a game who is not as good as you, and my hope for translation-born is I'm putting something on the screen that's serving as a little bit of a distraction while at the same time, you know, keeping you engaged while I make various points. I don't want it to become so distracting that you stop listening to my points and consider that instead. Okay, and then that's sort of a total aside. Come on, camera, cooperate. What I wanted to point out, here we go, is the way that these corpses are hung up here. Right? Because this is another potentially important aspect of the storytelling in Hemwick and Bloodborne. Right? You come up here and you have all of these corpses in these various positions. Some of them are right side up, some of them are upside down. Notably, these ones are not in a position where they have the hunter rune, right? None of them have their hands tied over their heads. Some of them have their hands tied like behind their backs, right? This one is like secured to the pole there. Even the ones that are upside down, like this skeleton friend here, this very skull-forward skeleton, even this one, right? Not someone who has been tied up with their arms above their head to harvest blood or anything like that. It's just sort of an upside-down thing fastened to this pole. So, possibly an indication that there's no, like, blood harvesting happening here. Again, this is the sort of thing that there's not a lot of strong clarity. Like, they're putting these corpses here as definitely a way of letting you know that the place that you're approaching is bad news and potentially important, right? Because you have them lining the path in a way that they haven't up until this point. But what do they mean? Do they really have any deep significance? Are they just set dressing? It's a little bit tricky to tell, right? They could be extremely important. They could be nothing at all. So, yeah, that's sort of the the constant question mark for me with visual information, and yet again, that's really not my strongest suit. Now somewhere, has it already gone? Here it is. I knew it was coming. There's a Wandering Madness that drops down from that hole in the ceiling, and I couldn't quite figure out when or where it was going to happen, but we got it. We figured it out. Okay. And if we go down here, we're going to fight a boss. I've only got 14 blood vials. How risky do I want to be? 26,000 blood echoes. That's a lot. This isn't the hardest boss in the game by any stretch, but I think that's just a little too risky for me. I'm going to head back to the Dream, and we're going to spend as many blood echoes as we can in preparation for this boss fight, especially because the shortcut's unlocked. We can just run back here. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Come back to the Dream with me. It's just good practice to come back to the Dream and spend all your blood echoes when you get to sort of major moments like that. So, plus, you know, it's not a bad idea to restock on blood vials and make sure everything's in order. Also, I think there was something I wanted to buy. There's another weapon I wanted to buy from the shop. Maybe I'll do that first, because I'm pretty happy with my damage at the moment. So, not items over here. One of these weapons. Which one was I missing? I think it was the stake driver. Actually, if I can bring up... There we go. All right, so we've got one of those. We don't have one of those. We've got one of those. We do have a Kirk hammer. The game is lying to me. We do have a threaded cane. We do have a hunter axe. We do have a... Okay, these I just remember I have. I don't know why the game is lying to me, but it is. Maybe it's just because I didn't buy it from the shop, so it's like not ticking some sort of box. I don't know. This is 1.00. might be an issue with this part of the game. Let's pick up the, well, quite literally, Pairuhamma stake driver. But before we do it, we're looking at another description. Let's take a little bit of time here to go through it. Okay, so this is a trick weapon with an unusual form from the hand of the workshop heretics, the Powder Kegs. It is also known as the beloved weapon of old hunter Dura. The weapon sort of like used with love, to get a little bit more literal there. Okay, by means of a complicated mechanism, it presses home an extremely thick stake by firing it out. That one's a little bit tricky to wrap my head around literally, but that's the idea. Boy, how do I get across Ichigeki Hisatsu no Buki de Ari? Okay, so it's a weapon of like strong single blows, right? Ichigeki Hisatsu is literally, it's like one attack, instant death. But Hisatsu as instant death is a little bit too literal to accurately convey the meaning of the term. Like you'll hear characters in anime and video games and things call out about their Hisatsuwaza all the time, right? It's their sure kill move all the time. It very rarely does that move actually kill anyone. The idea is that it's supposed to be a deadly attack, right? It's an attack that you have to take seriously, that if it hits, it's going to be a big hit and is probably going to take someone out. But, I mean, you know, anime, video games, these tend to be very sort of hype kinds of media, so usually it doesn't work out that way. And I feel like maybe by association, it's sort of watered down a little bit of the meaning. Maybe? I don't know. But anyway, it's a weapon. The main point in the stake driver here is it's a weapon that is all about single powerful attacks. And skimo okiku, right? So it also leaves wide openings. So the idea is you throw out this like one shot, one kill, like super powerful strike, and in doing so, it leaves you open, right? So you have to make sure that the big attack hits or you're in trouble. And the final short sentence is part of that whole long sentence there. Therefore, not even therefore, it just, right? So it's a weapon of short, powerful attacks. It leaves large openings, causes you to leave large openings, and it is highly difficult to use. Its difficulty of use is high, if we want to be literal. And then the final line, although in that very difficulty seems to lie what makes the powder kegs the powder kegs. There you go. Very straightforward. This is a weapon that's just talking about the weapon. You don't get a lot of those. A lot of these item descriptions, they're talking about some other aspect of the world at the same time. And I guess we can learn a little bit about Jira's character and the personality of the powder kegs through this, but it's a complex mechanism that creates this powerful single strike, and it's difficult to use because besides that one big hit, it's difficult to master because it leaves you open. But the powder kegs love the complex design. They love the single powerful boom, right? Big booms. This one explosive attack where they shoot forward this stake and blast that into their foes. And you got to be good to make use of it, right? They almost think the hunter should be the one who brings out their complex design to accomplish a simple task. And again, right, we're thinking about big explosions, one single powerful attacks, but the contrast of very complex design, simple thing, right? It's an intricate mechanism that shoots out a stake very quickly, right, in a powerful way. So the thing that you're accomplishing is simple by contrast. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, let's pick it up. There you go, 8,000 blood echoes. Let's see how many levels we can get. Can we get maybe 2?
Welcome home. What is it? Very well, let me...
Yes, good. I was hoping we'd be able to pick up 2 levels.
Farewell, good hunt, mate.
Okay, and let's stock up on some blood vials, because that's always a good idea. We're actually getting close to the maximum. It's a little scary. I much prefer having the maximum be like 600 or whatever they patched it to. A number where you can, not deplete it within like 3 or 4 boss attempts. But then, like I said, it shouldn't be that hard for this particular boss that I'm about to attempt. So let us return to Hemwick Charnel Lane. Alright, we are back in Hemwick, and it's time to do the time-honored tradition of running past all the enemies, and, ignoring all the ambushes and just booking it straight for the boss. And we may end up having to deal with 1 or 2 enemies on our way there. Uh-oh, like these people, because I'm gonna die. Boy, it'd be really funny if I went back to the dream to, get myself all prepared, and then I died on my way to the boss. No, just keep running. Just keep running. Alright. Through the gate is a good spot to heal. I remember that from past experience. Okay. Those barrels would probably explode if I hit them with this particular weapon, so good thing I didn't. I didn't really save that many blood vials because I've had to heal a number of times on my way here, but that's okay. And then maybe these particular enemies... Uh-oh. Wow, she really nailed my trajectory there. These particular enemies I can fight in this house. Uh-oh. In theory. Am I gonna die? I really hope not. Okay, good. You're the Molotov cocktail thrower. You are no more. Alright, well... I have confirmed that I'm terrible at this game. I can't even run past enemies effectively, and I'm down to 13 blood vials for this boss attempt, which I don't even remember, but it may be less than I had before. The important thing, though, is that my blood echoes are incredibly small, so I don't have to worry about them being a problem. And this is also going to be a moment, here we go, the Witch of Hemwick is the boss we're fighting, where some of the things that we've been seeing come together. So first of all, there's this enemy here, which this is a difficult enemy that should not be underestimated. But that enemy right there, let's see. Can I fight you? Okay, keep missing. Get back my stamina. I bet I can get him out in one more string. Yep, there we go. So that enemy's gone. Nothing has happened to the boss's health bar, right? So that enemy is not the boss. this boss is a boss of trickery. Also, this boss, cool thing about this one is, there she is. Cool thing about this boss is she sort of brings together, not only does she bring together a few things about this area, but also the translation here is sort of part of the boss. That's not what I wanted her to do. Alright. I'm trying to get a very specific attack from her. I'll run back and hopefully do a better job next time. Not only does that boss bring together a certain amount of things that we've been observing throughout the area, but also the translation of that boss name is an important thing, right? It plays a role in this fight. And the official translation, I doubt they got to see this boss fight, like, realized. You know, I seriously doubt that they got to work on the game with enough context to know what was going to happen in this particular boss fight. I think they just got the name in Japanese, and they translated the name as they saw it, and they came out with The Witch of Hemwick. I think that particular name for the boss is like 80% there. I think the one thing that would have made the boss translation just a little bit better. Look at that. I'm trying to make a point, and I make this whole run almost flawless until I get stuck in on this particular enemy. But that's okay. I don't mind getting stuck in on that particular enemy, because they drop blood vials. Anyway, I think if they had just called this boss Witch of Hemwick as opposed to The Witch of Hemwick, it would have been better. But, I don't think they knew what was going on. Alright, now, let me try and demonstrate what that point was that I wanted to make. Please don't do your AoE thing. Yes. No. Okay. Not worth it, I don't think. That particular boss will grab you and attempt to gouge your eye out as one of her attacks. Okay. And she, of course, teleports around. She's also the one summoning this particular enemy by association here. And not only will this boss gouge your eye out, but she will also do nothing. That doesn't really matter. The thing that I wanted to point out is that she also is covered in eyes. So, whoop, there she is. Okay. She can't float. There's that AoE that killed me before. Is she still here? Good, she's still here. As you can see, she is covered. Those are all eyeballs. Demonstrating what's cool about this boss is more dangerous than fighting this boss. In fact, she looks an awful lot like the enemies that gouged our eyes out when we were in that other area. What's it called? Obviously not Hemwick. Yahar'gul, when we went to the Unseen Village early. So that is going to sort of recontextualize what was going on with those bloodshot eyeballs, right? Because, uh-oh, wow, that AoE went crazy far. Because those bloodshot eyeballs, not only are they found all over Hemwick, but the Witch of Hemwick is bedecked in eyeballs, and she has an attack which involves grabbing you and gouging your eye out. So there's the context that we don't get from the text that... Oh, good. So note, I hit that enemy, that nothing happened to the health bar, right? So this is another thing that I wanted to demonstrate about this fight, and this is why I thought Witch of Hemwick, rather than The Witch of Hemwick being in the boss name, was desirable. It's because there's actually two witches in here. And so I think, on the one hand, having the boss name be the Witch of Hemwick provides a fake out in English, and that is potentially valuable because it's more of an active trick. But I feel like there's going to be a certain point in this fight, you know, unless I die again. There's going to be a certain point in this fight where we're going to have 2 health bars on screen, and in English they would both say the Witch of Hemwick. And I think that is a little bit unfortunate. Because in the Japanese, Hemwick no Majo, right? It could be singular or it could be plural. There's no article, right? This could be Witches of Hemwick. This could be Witch of Hemwick. This could be the Witch of Hemwick. This could be a Witch of Hemwick, right? It could be any of those things on its own. So it's a little bit unclear. Uh-oh. I didn't realize I would turn around. Okay. It's a little bit unclear what exactly is meant by the name, and therefore the fact that we see that use of the article V in English sort of subtly changes the nature of the combat. And I think it's super cool that the translation sort of has an impact on this boss fight by association. But I do think it's weird when you see both of those names on the screen at the same time. And I think if you put Witch of Hemwick there and dropped the, you would get enough people who were sort of confused about... here we go. Now am I gonna get... Yes, now I'm gonna get grabbed. This might kill me, but I wanna show this off. There it is, and there's the second health bar. Am I alive? Okay, good. I've just barely survived so far. Okay, and I haven't been caught in any of these attacks, so now I can heal. Alright, gotta run. Excellent. I got to demonstrate the attack and show off everything, and now we're seeing the 2 health bars. Perfect. Now, I want to try and defeat this boss, because if I take too long, the other Witch of Hemwick is going to... regain health! Alright, now I want to try and break out of this. I don't know if I'll be able to make it. Oh, I made it. Oh, and it killed me. See? She revives. I think this is more than I have ever died to the Witch of Hemwick. But it's because I'm trying to show off cool things about the fight. I think that's all of them, though, right? We've sort of tied the Bloodshot Eyeball to this place because she goes for your eyes. We've also seen one of the reasons why all of these enemies are so noticeably female, right? Because it's presided over by a pair of witches. We've talked about why it's cool that the translation sort of fakes you out and makes you think it's the Witch of Hemwick, even though I think if you just used Witch of Hemwick without the article, people would just assume that there was one, and then when the second health bar appeared, they wouldn't necessarily feel like you tricked them. So take or leave that however you see fit. But that's sort of my opinion on the matter. And I'm not even going to bother to, like, stay and deal with those enemies that followed me in here. I'm just going to head straight for the boss door now. And I'm going to try and stop messing around, recover my blood echoes, however many there were, and just take this boss on as a boss. And we'll see how we do this time. I still might get caught. That second phase with the... That second phase with the paralysis attack is no joke. That is the most dangerous part of this boss fight. It usually does not result in my death, regardless. But that's not to say that it won't happen. I make, as I was recently saying to the person who discovered that I don't know how to dodge, I make no promises as to my skill at this game. Okay, she is up there. Cool. Ooh, let's get back up here. Alright. Oop, I saw that. And you have no health bar. Excellent. saw that too. Also the one with no health bar. Good. Gotta wear them down. Gotta get to the point where one is dead and the other is very low on health. That is the ideal for this boss fight, because then you can very quickly finish off the one and you don't have to worry about the revival of the other. And those wandering enemies that are there to make your life difficult, I tend to just ignore. Now, they do get in a good amount of damage that way. Yeah, I saw you. Okay, I think I want to hurt the one that does have the health bar now. Is that her, or is that someone who... Oh, that's the one with the health bar. Good. She's getting very low. Now, if I can kill the one without the health bar, that would be ideal. I don't know where she's gotten to, though. It's a little bit difficult to properly coordinate your attacks. There's so many cool things about this boss fight that, unfortunately, like I said, I think I've died more times in attempting this particular fight with the Witch of Hemwick than I have in a long time. Uh-oh. Alright, now where's the other one? Gotta finish her off quick. Hopefully I've seriously depleted her health bar. I'm pretty sure I have. There she is. Okay. Do not paralyze me. Die. There it is. That's more how I'm used to the fight going. And of course, these enemies all die when they die. And look at that, 6 bloodshot eyeballs, in case you didn't draw the connection. Maybe I didn't have to die to getting my eye gouged out. Well, getting paralyzed as part of, in preparation for getting my eyes gouged out, right? To demonstrate that connection. Because they just give you that drop as part of defeating the boss. So, yep, there you have it. And more importantly, here's something that you wouldn't have expected from all of the buildup in the area previously. If you go past the boss room, you get into this very, like, set piece sort of place here, where we've got the sun shining in from this discombobulated roof on this figure who is tied to a chair, the arms tied down. Presumably their eyes were gouged out. Don't know necessarily what they were doing, what this person's story is, but they were back here. Obviously they're dead now. They were captive for some reason behind the Witch of Hemwick. Quite frankly, it could just be a video gamey situation thing where they wanted to put this item back here, but it's a very important item. It is the Rune Workshop tool. We're not going to get too involved with that description or anything in this moment, though, because this episode has gone somewhat long. I died too many times trying to show off cool things about the Witch of Hemwick, and got too absorbed in reading item descriptions and things. Hopefully you had a good time coming along, but for now I'm going to call an end to my hunt for the evening, and I wish all of you good hunting.